Sometimes I wish there was a place on Earth that wasn't snowy. So the dawning has been confirmed. Okay, so new remastered strikes, they're pretty cool, right? They're not new strikes, but they're pretty cool. Anyway, so why couldn't the dawning just have been considered a DLC? Like, just one of those free DLCs, right? Give it an even more creative name, because there's probably going to be another dawning, sometime next year, around Christmas. Give it a more creative name, give it, high-end PvE activity, and then you basically have your, standard DLC, right? And remaster some strikes, introduce a new one or two, and then, yeah, that's basically your average DLC, right? So, one of my problems is, why couldn't the April update have done this? They could have Okay, basically, they didn't call it any actual, like, DLC name, like Malak's Return or anything. They just called it the April update, which is probably the most uncreative name you could have ever thought of. Like, next to, oh my god, like, even the Festival of the Lost and Sparrow Racing League, they have more creative names. And they're not even considered DLCs, really, right? And the April update could have been, if it were, say, Rise of Malak. It has a PvE activity, it remastered strikes, it brought in a new strike, it had, a story mission, a relatively short one, but it had one. Like, if they wanted to, they could have charged $10 for it, and they could have actually made a profit off of it, but instead it was free. Okay, nobody considered this a major DLC, right? Nobody really did, because it's still at the same rate you had to do, so, like, yeah, that's somehow just, I don't know, it makes it considered, the same DLC. I guess if they would have introduced 1 to 2 more story missions, it would have had more content than the Dark Below, in a way. And it introduced a bunch of new leveling systems. It basically, fixed that screwed infusion system, where, you couldn't, infuse up to the max light. And this really sucked, and they fixed it, so they made the April update really good on its own. It could have just been like a bug patch too, and it still would have been beloved. But the April update did so much more. It increased so many new mechanics, more than the Dark Below, actually. Like, okay, if a free DLC introduces more, content than, a $20 DLC, such as the Dark Below, then that's a really good DLC, or free DLC, or, the Dark Below is a really bad paid DLC. Probably both, but, yeah, I think they should have called it, Rise of Malak or something, and then they should have just said it's a free DLC. So those are my thoughts on the April update. Now let's talk about the new dawning. The December update and the dawning, it's not permanent. The December update, it is permanent, a few things are permanent, but the dawning itself is not, so this couldn't be considered free DLC. But I do have other hopes in the future. So the dawning is going to increase. It's going to bring back new guns such as the Icebreaker, which I'll review once I get it, because it's the freaking Icebreaker. That gun was insane in year 1. But yeah, so I do have hopes for something else to be considered a DLC. This year's April update could be a DLC. I think, like, it's probably not going to be, but I'm just gonna explain how it could be. I'm not saying it will be, it probably will not be, to be honest. But this is the ways it could be. That's what I'm trying to go on. So, it, last April update, if they would have named it, like, let's just say, yeah, it's Rise of Malak, right? So this year's could be, I don't know, Rise of a new Siva threat, and we could bring back, an old activity, like we did with, Prison of Elders, to make the Challenge of the Elders, and basically we could call it a DLC. But, yeah, to be considered a DLC, it has to update things, so, the other endgame isn't really that useful anymore. So King's Fall isn't really useful anymore after Rise of Iron. House of Wolves, Prison of Elders wasn't really that useful after Taken King came out. Dark Below, it wasn't really super useful after, let's see, the Prison of Elders and House of Wolves. And Year 1 raid wasn't super useful after the Dark Below came out. But you still could do them, right? So I think it should be the same way. You could still do the Wrath of the Machine, and you would do it for the guns and everything. But it wouldn't drop up to the max light. And then we could introduce a new raid. It depends, like, maybe the Siva threat could be the Iron Lords, and there could be a raid with the Iron Lords, new Iron Lords. I don't know, I'm just daydreaming here, but, like, this would be great. And you could even still keep the old raid. I think, yeah, actually, no, don't decrease the level drops in the old raid. Increase the light to, like, 450 or something. Make it drop up to there. Because that's what happened with this April update, aka the Rise of Malak, as I want to call it. But I can't because, yeah, or there already is Rise of Iron, so let's call it like the Dawn of Malak or something. That's capping off the dawning. Alright, I'm gonna think of an original name, and then, yeah. I think an original name would actually be the Shadow of Malak, because that kind of sounds really cool. And, or like something to do with the Elders, Prison of Elders, like challenge, you know, like Malak and the Elders or something. It all sounds cooler than the April update. The April update, I want to consider a DLC, but I can't. So, yeah, how do you guys think the Dawning is gonna be? I hope it has a lot of DLC permanent elements that actually stay in the game and change the game for the better. I hope most of it changes the game for the better permanently. Like, I hope the only thing that really goes away is multiplayer SRL, which you can still do private match SRL, and the power looking really good. Like, really icy and stuff. Obviously, you don't want that the whole time. So, yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. What do you guys think about the free DLC? Do you think it should be have better names? Because then that would it would be a lot more interesting. And, like, okay, let's say the April update were considered a DLC. Then we would have had 5 DLCs so far. And, like, you can't really consider it a DLC, even though it brought about as much content as the Dark Below. That's not really fair for the April update. And the April update basically improved Taken King to the point where it could have been a new DLC with all of the innovations and all the new leveling systems, and basically, yeah. What do you guys think? Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Leave a like on the video if you agree. dislike it if you don't agree, I guess. Because, yeah. That's kind of what you do on YouTube. So, yeah, that's it, guys. Bye.